We are live, as my good friend Gary White would say. We are finally live. Thanks. It is so good to see you again, Gary. It's been a few weeks actually since we did our same page, getting everyone onto the same page webinar that we did a few weeks back. And we had such a blast doing that. We thought we'd get back together and break it on down.
Absolutely, Dave. And I've not stopped talking about it, and others have not stopped talking about it. So I'm glad that we're getting to do this several times over.
Yeah, it was really great to get feedback from the people who attended the webinar, and just obviously the insights that they gained from it. And we thought, wouldn't it be really cool if we could run it again, which we're going to later in September. But what if we could actually do it again? But in between now and then, break down all the components of it, where I'm going to share part that I shared, and then you're going to grill me on it. Then next week, you're going to share part of what you shared. I'm going to grill you on it, and then we'll flip back and forth, and then we'll have the full-on webinar. Yep. So it'd be great. We got Naomi at McFarland. It's great to be here. Well, it's great to have you here, Naomi. Thank you for joining in on with us here at. What part of the world are you in, Gary? I don't even know where you are at the moment. Like Gary's, by the way, everyone, like Gary's a world traveler, so it's so hard to pin him down. Like, where are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm in Austin, Texas right now.
Austin.
Yep. Austin,
Yeehaw.
Texas. Yeehaw. Yep.
Should have got the cowboy hat. Yeah. Well, if you move a little bit more over, the lampshade will look like about a 10-gallon on your head there. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. So you're in your hotel room in Austin, I assume, and that's
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yep. I'm speaking to some leaders today in the government, and so a little bit later this afternoon, my time.
Yep.
Looking forward to that. Yep.
Fantastic leadership.
Am I the only one left? Because it shows live, and it shows that Dave is not here, but it shows that I'm here. So if anybody can see and hear me, let me know. Let me know that you're here. Let me know that you can see me. It's not Texas here, Port Stevens. All right. Okay, then maybe my computer just has me. Okay, I'm going to log off and log back on. And we'll see if we can get this thing rolling. Naomi, can you still hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to assume nobody can hear me. Logging off. Oh, okay. Naomi can see and hear me. So Dave, all right, I just want to be sure about that. So Dave has dropped off. Dave will get back in. Not sure. Hey, it's not if something happens with technical issues, it's when it happens, right? So listen, I know Dave was going to be talking about, and I'm sure he's going to be popping back in. He's going to be talking about human behavior, organizational behavior. So listen, while he's getting back in, let me just take just a second and share from my end how I typically navigate through human behavior. Okay. Dave has a wonderful pattern of human behavior that he's going to show. And I typically, he works at this macro level, and I typically work at a micro level, and there he is to deliver me. out of this.
All the power went out. The whole place.
Okay, power just went out again. So there for Dave in Australia. So Dave deals at the organizational level, the macro level, and I deal at the micro level in human behavior. Okay, so I don't want to take away from what Dave will share, but I would say that I typically boil it down into think, feel, and act. Think, feel, and act. Now Dave's got a few more steps in there that goes along with the think, feel, and act, and Dave's back. So
sorry, guys.
We're going to try this again.
But power, we just lost all power.
Yeah.
I was just like, and everything just shut down in the studio. We just lost power and everything. So I'm just, I had to jump back on my mobile network here.
Yeah.
So I'm just temporarily here until my modem reboots and kicks in. So sorry, everybody. Sorry, Gary, but mate, you carry on.
That's okay. We've got a blurred picture of you right now, but we can hear your voice. I was just sharing, Dave, how that you function in human behavior, really at an organizational and macro level of what that human behavior looks like. And I began to talk about how I boil it down into think, feel, and act. But obviously, I shared with everyone I'm not going to take away from how you would deliver it. And
well, we might have to look at how you deliver it until I have full. I've got power back in here, but I have to wait for the modem to reboot itself. And so I'm just on my mobile network on my tablet right now, which I would normally be whiteboarding on. So
yeah, okay,
technology, you got to love it.
Yeah. So as I was sharing, just very briefly, there's such a connection with human behavior and the results that we get. It's directly connected. There's emotions that come into play that I like to call that energy in motion. There's thinking that begins to generate the emotion. And then there's so many influences that come into our thinking. So it's ideal for us to be plugged in, no pun intended, to Dave now, who's having power issues.
That's a little bit too soon, Gary, too soon.
to be plugged in where you get what you need to function correctly, right? We all get results, and it's all typically because of our behavior, because of the emotions that we have, because of the thinking that we have. I help people understand how people think on a micro level in terms of 4 basic personalities: dominant, influencing, steady, compliant. I help people understand how you can recognize that. And when you do, you recognize what's important to someone. And then as a good coach, as a good leader, you can engage their positive energy. You can be proactive in that. So, and that dovetails so nicely into what Dave shares and what Circle Leadership is doing globally to really help people get the results that they're after.
Man, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, you probably could have, because you're Dave. So,
well, let me just see. I think I'm going to mute myself here.
Hey.
Dave, okay, you're always hogging the screen, man.
Let's get rid of him. There we go. Oh man, what an adventure that was for everyone. Oh man. Now I hope we didn't lose everybody at the same time. Let me just see now if I can bring all my screens back up. Okay, so I've got that. Let me just see now. Can I bring up my whiteboard? My Gary whiteboard. All right. We're starting to look like we're back on deck here. So.
Back on deck.
Look at that.
Love it.
It almost looks like we know what we're doing here now, Gary.
Yeah.
Although we've chance they lost everyone who was following us through that process there. It was on the live stream.
Hey, Naomi's been hanging in here because I asked her.
Yeah.
I said, "Can you still hear me?" And she said, "I can still hear and see you."
Okay, well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Naomi, for doing that. I wasn't sure what was going to happen when when all that power went out, whether that would actually cause the whole live stream to go down. But thank you, Gary. The strength of Gary Wyatt was holding it up. Yes. All right. So we're back and we're rolling. Should I still do what I was planning to do, Gary, or have you already covered it all and I don't need to?
Oh no, Dave. Listen, I just opened the door a little bit and let them peek inside. So, no, you're going to take us and give us a full tour, and we're going to be glad we were with you this morning.
All right. Thank you very much, my friend. All right. Let's bring up the whiteboard then and just have a look at this. Probably better to put you and I over here, won't it? And please, Gary, as always, as we alluded to just before we lost all the power, was the fact that Gary's going to add his insights, which he's already shared a bit. So anything he's already shared, he may jump in here and go through. When I talk about the process for human behavior that we run through, for organizations as we work with them about helping people to get on the same page, I'm looking forward to Gary jumping in and asking questions and bringing his value to it. Whereas before it was kind of individual. This time we're gonna have a conversation about it as we go through it.
Yeah.
Did you share with everybody like why this is important to getting everyone on the same page at all, Gary, at the beginning?
No, I didn't, Dave. I just talked very briefly about human behavior at a huge 40,000 foot level.
Okay, beautiful. So why do you think then this is important? People understanding human behavior when we're talking about getting everybody onto the same page, Gary. Like, share your wisdom in that space. Why is this so important? Why are we pushing this as part of this whole process?
Dave, there's so many entrepreneurs that are watching, and every business owner, every organization, there's that spirit of entrepreneur that really began things. But Dave, it's one thing for me to take myself to dinner because I'm hungry. It's something totally different whenever I get tasked to take 100 school children to get pizza. Now I need help. Right? I know how I think and I know what I would do, but to get me there, but when I've got to take a lot of other people there, I need help. And with that, we have to understand human behavior and work with and through others to get the results that we want. And that's why this is so critically important.
Yeah, beautiful. I couldn't have said it sweeter than that. And I think this is really important to understand. So for us also, the reason why we share this process for human behavior is that all organizations start and live on leadership in terms of people. So when I talk about leadership, I'm also talking about people here. Yeah. Is that every business is built on people. And even though we're all this fancy technology coming our way, when it works and when it doesn't work, it all still comes back to people. And so leadership, especially in this modern world that we're in, the future of leadership, which is really the present of leadership, is really becoming a lot more, or people are starting to realize how much more it is about people. And, when you look at your organization and how you get your people right, and then you get them to be productive, and then your organization performs at a higher level, then you make your profits, and then you end up having the lifestyle that you want from your business. If you look at the flow of that, but it all starts with people. So if all organizations start and end with people and, through leadership, then it's really important for us to understand the process for human behavior. And so if we're going to lead people, then we need to understand how people became who they are. But we also need to understand, because the first leadership, Gary, is what leadership?
Self-leadership.
Boom. Right? It's self-leadership.
Yeah.
Now I knew you were going to answer that, right? Yeah, it's personal leadership. So as you're watching this, if you're going through this with us, please think about this in the lens of yourself first. Because if you want to become the best leader that you're capable of becoming, well, it's really important to understand how you've become who you are today, because that's the exact same process that you can use to become whoever you want to become in the future. But it's also the same process as a leader that you can use to help your team become the best version of themselves, to do their life's best work while in your care and beyond.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we want to really cover this. I'm not going to go too much into the thing here in terms of organizational behavior. That's more there as a teaser for when we do the second part of that. But in this live stream, we just want to at least go through, before we lose power again, the process for human behavior. But I want to make sure everyone understands why it's so important to understand this actual process in terms of getting people on the same page. Because people are like, well, what's this got to do with getting that there? Well, the fact is that this is the magic and science behind it all. So let's get into the magic and science, shall we?
Yes, let's do it, Dave.
Let's do it. All right. So success. Success. Look at that. It's working beautiful. Success, however you choose to define that for yourself. And once again, I'm asking you as you're watching this throughout this live stream, or if you watch it later, to reflect on what does success mean to you. It's your definition of success. But what we can tell you is your success has come from your results. So I have accomplished these things in my life. And those results culminate in my current picture of success I may or may not be enjoying right now. Those results, though, have come from the way I've behaved. I've taken certain actions, and those actions have driven these results, which gets me this picture of success that I'm may or may not be enjoying in my life right now. And I only say that because some people aren't happy where they are. And if you're not happy where you are, well, this will help you. And if you are happy with where you are, guess what? This is how you got there. And then how you can add more happiness to your life. I've actually had some of these conversations lately with people. And I said, do you want me to show you how you got into misery? Let me show you how you ended up where you are. I didn't know where I was. Well, congratulations, you're there.
Yeah.
There's been some awesome conversations. But so if you understand this, so how I behaved has driven my results and gets me the success I may or may not be enjoying my life right now. Now, what do we know about human behavior over the past couple hundred years? Basic psychology studies written in the Bible, the Greek philosophers have all talked about this throughout the years. And that is, how I think determines how I act. As a person thinketh, think and grow rich. I think, therefore I am. Right? So our thinking, how we think, determines how we act. Now, that thinking can lead to feeling. Those feelings lead to action. I'm a firm believer that the mind thinks and the body feels.
Yeah.
Right? So as I think, then my body feels that, then I act in accordance with that.
Yeah.
So our attitudes are just our habits of thinking. Now, I don't know about you growing up at school, but I was always told, Dave's a really, good student, but he has a bad attitude.
Mm.
And attitude was always looked at as a bad thing. Like, I don't like your attitude. But for me, it's really important to understand, like, even in organizations, like, that team member doesn't have a great attitude. Well, attitudes are just habits of thinking. Right? And what we might not know is what that person is thinking. And it just portrays as they have a bad attitude because it may be expressed through the way they're behaving, because how I think determines how I act. So we're looking at organization. It's really important to understand as human beings that it's how we think determines how we act. Those attitudes, those habits of thinking then have been conditioned into us, Gary, through a process of spaced repetition of a bunch of inputs from parents, teachers, media, society, people's opinions that we've valued as we've been growing up. We've been told to believe what they tell us, has through repetition has conditioned the way we think about things, causing us to behave the way we do, giving us the results and success we may or may not be enjoying in our life right now. And this is how we got to be who we are. Pretty simple.
It's pretty powerful, Dave. It is simple in one sense, but it is something that I think anyone seeing this for the first time and anyone seeing this for the 100th time, if they're really serious about getting that success that's at the top, you're going to pause. And you're just going to look at this and you're going to begin to apply it to areas of your life. There's not one time that I see this, Dave, that I don't do that very thing, that I don't say, okay, I can apply that. And yes, he's right there. Yes, I see in my life where that reflects. Yeah.
And thanks for sharing that, Gary, because this is how we learn to walk, talk, drive a car, ride a bike, everything in life. I look at the leader that I've become today. It's through the inputs of the good and bad leaders that I've experienced in my life, things that I've seen repetitively that I liked or didn't like, because I can also learn from the inputs of behaviors I did not like and saying, well, I don't want to behave, so I want to behave like this. And then I've learned from that, which, repetitively seeing that and going, well, I'm going to be like this, and done that. This is, how you can become great at anything. And you know what? Every single time I do this, I probably do it subtly different. You may have seen me do this 10 times by now, easily, Gary. And each time I've done it subtly different.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Because I just think this is the magic and behind everything. And if people can embrace this and understand this, here's the beauty of this process, Gary, is that it's the same process that got us to be who we are today is the one that can help us become who we want to be tomorrow. Guess what? All we have to do is change the inputs.
Yeah.
And the way we do that is we go, well, if and let me ask you this, Gary, because a man of your fine stature, you've achieved a lot in life, and you're extremely successful in many things that you've done. Have you peaked?
Oh, absolutely not.
Is this like the best Gary White we're ever going to see in the world today? Is this it? Is as good as Gary gets?
Boy, I hope not. I hope there's a better version of me, Dave. That's why I'm with you, Dave, so I can get a better version of myself.
Well, mate, iron sharpens iron. That's why I'm hanging out with you.
Yeah.
So, and I've just enlarged the screen just for this as an example, though. So when you think about your own self and your own success in your life, and even your team members and everything in your organization, and I want to speak to you out there, the CEO, the business owner, the entrepreneur, the business leader, because we often sometimes think that we are there and everyone's working with us or for us in our organization. Therefore, we need to help them. We don't need to help ourselves because we're already successful. But let me assure you, as a leader, you need to go first to create the space and capacity to allow your team to go further. If you do not think about this in your own lens of how you can become even greater, more successful in whatever it is in terms of your life, what you're doing is you're building a ceiling that your team cannot surpass. And guess what? They'll either feel the weight of that downward pressure, and that creates anxiety, stress, and everything like that in the workplace, or they'll leave. And we wonder why people are leaving organizations today, Gary. Do people leave organizations or do they leave leaders and managers?
Yeah.
Right?
They leave leaders.
Yeah, they leave leaders and managers, right? So they're going, I have no space and capacity. So this process, as we go through it, please understand for you as a business owner leader, if you're watching this, you have to go first so your team can go further. If you think that you've peaked and you're the best you're ever going to be, well, then you've got some challenges ahead of you. Because when you're standing on the peak of the mountain, right? I'm on the top of the mountain, like, oh, I made it to the top of the mountain. And I look and survey around me. What's the only direction I can go?
Yeah.
Down, right?
Down.
Right. So I don't know about you or anybody else watching this. I'm building my mountain as I climb it. Right. And this is why when people see, I'll see at the top of the mountain, please turn to them and say, I don't know what mountain you're climbing, but I'm building mine as I climb it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how high this thing can go. I don't know how big this thing can get. But I'm going to keep climbing and keep climbing.
Yeah, it's a wonderful analogy, Dave. And you know the big mountains, and I'm going to climb Kilimanjaro one day. So perhaps, Dave, you and I can go climb that together. But here's what I know.
Someone has to look after base camp, Gary. I'll take care of that for you.
I'm glad you said base camp, because here's one thing I know: the big mountains. You never get to the top by yourself.
Yeah.
That is not a one-person show. That is, and so here's what I love. That as we grow, we have to be tapped into relationships with others. All of this that you're giving, Dave, and I love the fact that you're giving. I love the fact that you're making circles. I love the fact that it's circle leadership because it's all in the circulation. Life is in the circulation. So you give to others what you receive, you give to others, it comes back, but you will not get to the top of those mountains, those big mountains. You want your business to really do something big, you've got to tap into the strengths of others. You want it to really go far, you've got to tap in to this model that Dave is sharing with us on how you can make people successful in your organization, how you can continue to climb that mountain, lift that lid, and that creates headroom for everyone else. Use this model, and you can get to the top.
You can only make people more successful by making yourself more successful first.
Yeah.
And success doesn't have to be what the modern day definition of success is in terms of just money, right? It's the riches of life. You know what? The interesting thing here, you talk about, the climbing Kilimanjaro. There's a famous picture of the first guy to climb Mount Everest, Sir Edmund Hillary. Mm-hmm. Somebody took that picture, eh? He wasn't up there doing a selfie. Sir Edmund Hillary wasn't standing on top of that mountain alone.
Right.
He had Tenzing with him. Tenzing was his Sherpa. 2 men stood on top of the mountain that day.
Yeah.
Right. So never forget
You're
that. To your
absolutely
point,
right.
you don't get there alone. 2 men stood on the top of that mountain that day.
And Dave, to get that result, to have that success, it took certain thinking. And I know for myself, I would not get to the top of Kilimanjaro without someone else's thinking. I wouldn't get to the top of Everest without someone else's thinking that would also influence my thinking, that would influence my behavior, that's going to influence my results, that's going to get us there.
Yeah, and then, like, this is where we talk, Gary, that we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? The people who've come before us, the learning they've had, their thinking, their learning. We are then able to embrace that and use that as inputs and help us to become the best version of ourselves. So when you think about this here, success then is more about not what you've achieved, but it's about who you become through the achievement of those things. All right, it's not so much about the goals that you've accomplished; it's about who you become. And what we've realized over time is that we as human beings can continue to evolve and continually become more and more and more of what we're capable of, what we were put here to be and accomplish in our lives. Right? I think I truly believe in the infinite capacity of us as human beings, and I don't think we've barely even tapped into that. I certainly know I have barely tapped into mine, who I'm capable of becoming at this stage. Yeah. But I continue to evolve year on year on year because I know that I can become more.
Yeah.
Right. So if I want to have something, then here's the science of the magic. If I wanted to have something I've never had before, well, it'd be fair to say I'm not the person I need to be yet then to have that. So who would I need to become in order to have those? And then we would look at the word behave there, of course, and we would go, well, then how would that person behave? And here's the exciting part of this. And Gary, you know this. If you look at the word behave, it's just be and have together.
Yeah.
Right. And we go, okay, great. So if I want to have this I've never had in my life, who would I need to become to do that? If I want to have this organization, this is where we talk about helping leaders to evolve their business and themselves, right? If I have the business I have today and I'm leading it and I go, I want this business now, but then I would have to go, well, then who would I need to become as a leader to have that business? Because this leader built this business. And now I'm saying I want this business, well, then who do I need to become? And that's why I need to go first, so that there's space and capacity for the team to go further. And so we need to look at this and go, well, then if I want to get everyone on the same page, firstly, I have to create the space and capacity for the people to get on the page. So me as a leader, I have to go, well, who would I need to become then as a leader to do this? What results would I like to have that I don't have right now? What behaviors would I need to demonstrate that would show that would drive those results I'm looking for? But this is where most people stop, isn't it, Gary? They go, okay, well, I'm just going to let's make this for color's sake, take that out of there, do that. I'm just going to stop doing this and start doing that now.
Yeah.
And why do people start something like that, Gary, but then find themselves a few weeks later back doing what they've always done and getting what they've always gotten again?
Dave, it really is. You never leave a level. You layer on it. And if I'm looking at the model that you're showing me correctly, there's some things that need to be happening underneath that are just not. If I just leave that off and just go to the be and the have, there's just several things that I'm missing.
Yeah. What most people end up forgetting to do, Gary, is go, well, what would be the thinking that would drive those behaviors? What's, to your point earlier, what's the new thinking that I would need to have that would drive these behaviors, get me that result, and help me become the person I'm capable of becoming? Yeah. Right? And then what we want to do is take all that and bring that down here, and using the same process here, input through space repetition to condition the new way of thinking, to drive the new behaviors, the new results, and becoming who I'm capable of becoming.
Yeah.
So if you want to get everyone on the same page in your organization, it has to start with you being willing to go first. Whenever we talk to people about being a potential client of Circle Leadership, there's 2 key ingredients or 2 non-negotiables before it even gets to our purpose and our values. The 2 non-negotiables are, 1, you have to show that you actually care about the human beings in your organization. And number 2, you have to be willing to go first. If you're not willing to go first, oh no, I want this for my team, my people need this, I don't, then we can't help you because we get back to that situation. So you have to be willing to go first, and you have to show that you care about your people.
Yeah.
Because if you do this, then you allow you know how to do this, you can help your team do this. But here's the cool part. If I go back to our definition of leadership, Gary, which is about helping other people become the best version of themselves to do their life's best work while in your care and beyond, this is where that whole definition of leadership came from. So if we want to get people on the same page, we have to make space and capacity on that page for them to fit onto it. It means we have to make room for them, which means we have to go first to help them get on that page. We need to help them understand who they need to become and help them evolve as well. Because if we want the business to evolve, yes, we have to go first as the leader, but that's so that the team can evolve as well. And so it's great to have everyone on the same page, but if we're all standing there and we got no room to move on that page, getting on the same page and then, imagine everyone jumping onto Aladdin's magic carpet, Gary, and it not going anywhere.
Yeah.
We're all on the same carpet, but ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Dave, I love your non-negotiables. Because what I saw right there, I just saw this image of you being the Sherpa.
Yep.
And you got this business owner that says, "Hey, I want to climb this mountain." Okay, then this is the way that we need to go. Well, no, actually, I like, I've always had it in my mind I would climb it this direction. Yeah. Well, you will die if you climb it that way.
Yeah. You can go up the north face where the wind and the snow comes in and stuff like that, and you help yourself.
We only climb this way. We only climb this way. If you want to go to the top, you have to go this way. But isn't that true? The mountain will not bend to you. There is a way. There's a way. Success will not. So let's call it that. Success will not bend to make it easier for you. You got to follow this process, don't you, Dave?
100%, Gary. And that's a beautiful way to look at it when you think about the mountain. It will not bend.
Right.
Right. And this is the process. Guys, this is it. There's no other, this is the way to do it. The hardest part about this, Gary, is most of us have gotten to where we are through default and circumstance. We haven't had to do it by design, or we haven't chosen to do it by design. But now, when given the opportunity and the permission, which you've always had, to now do this for yourself, it's hard, Gary.
Yeah.
It's cold. It's windy. I've got to put on this stuff. I can't move as well as I'd like to. I look stupid. I'll slip off the mountain every now and again. I keep falling back a few things, and I don't know how to put my ropes in properly. And as you're climbing that mountain, these things are going to happen to you.
Yeah.
There's a great saying. I wish it was mine, but it's not. There's a few that I wish were mine, but they're not. This is one of them. Eric Worre said this, and he said, "It's hard to look good and get better at the same time." Right. So when you, as a leader now, are seeking to evolve yourself and create that space and capacity for your team, so you can get everyone on the same page, but also make room for them so that they can see the future of the organization, which we're going to talk about in the next live stream, is that you have to understand that you're going to slip, you're going to fall, you're going to slide back, but don't worry. Tenzing will be there and help you put his hand out and say, "Come on, you can do it. Get back up there." Because when we're talking about leadership being about helping everyone become the best version of themselves to do their life's best work while in your care and beyond, are we just saying that that's the business owner leader's responsibility, Gary, or is it somebody else's as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's all of us.
Right. Because nowhere in that definition does it say you need a position or title to demonstrate leadership.
Right.
Right. So we want to make sure we're building cultures in our organization where everyone can lift everybody up at any given time.
Yeah.
Right. But be prepared. Gary, did you get to be where you are today without making a single mistake along the way?
Oh, no. A lot of my learns, Dave, have come from taking action, and there was discovery on the other side of that action.
Yeah. So we are who we are today from the mistakes we've learned from. Now I'm making mistakes I haven't learned from yet, so I'm not who I need to be yet because I haven't learned from those ones yet. But as I say to people, we are who we are today from the mistakes that we've learned from. So what makes us, where does the arrogance come from, Gary, that we think we can become more without making some more mistakes along the way?
Dave, I really think that arrogance comes from I've got to this point on the mountain.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to
Yep.
go any higher. So I've got to justify staying right here.
Mm.
That's that in my mind, that's what creates that arrogance. It's
Yeah.
because Dave, when you talk about, first of all, when you speak, it builds a fire inside of people. I get a fire inside of me when you speak. But here's why, because leaders are repeaters of the vision. So when you're sharing all this, you have a vision. You have a vision to impact leaders across the globe. You've got a vision that you want to go after. And that keeps you climbing. That keeps you climbing. I'm going to the summit, mates. Isn't that what?
Yeah.
I'm going to the summit. Will you go with me? And here's what it looks like. I've been there. You got to see this. Come on. Come on.
Yeah.
And that drives. Now you're going to get naysayers and others listening, you're going to get naysayers along the way as you go. You know, the naysayers are those that are being led by their fear. I call it the whine gets bigger than the why.
It's like, would you like some cheese with that wine?
Yeah.
It's really interesting though. I love that they get stuck in there, like they climb up, and it's kind of what I call the trappings of success, right? So we get to a certain level, and look what I've accomplished. Look at me, look what I've accomplished. You're looking up there, you're going, but there's so much more I could accomplish. But guess what? To go up after that, guess what I have to risk? All that is.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the kicker, Gary, and I think you hit on a point here that just. It's like, you remember monkey bars, and you'd sit there and you'd go and you go from one monkey bar to the next. And can you imagine when you swing to one and you're like, oh, and then I'm holding the two monkey bars. And in order to grab the next one, I have to let go of the one behind me to go and get. And so I freeze. And do you know how much stress and energy it takes to stay still and hang there? And this is, I think, where people, they're the stress that people are feeling in their lives right now, business owners and leaders who are working longer and harder to keep the business where it's at and trying to control everything, and they're holding on so tight, is because they're not willing to let go and grab the next bar.
Yeah.
What they don't realize, though, is taking more energy to stay where you are than it is to grab the next bar. How's that for clarism?
That's a clarism. I like
right?
it. Yeah.
So it takes more energy to stay where you are than it does to grab the next bar. And then to do that and to keep, once something in motion is better to stay in motion, right? So that staying where you are part is actually more stressful than actually you realize, but it's because it feels comfortable. But I think that's what it's almost like it's taking a lot of energy to keep you there. And as a leader, and if you're listening to this and as you're going through this, if you're watching this later as well, please understand that you need to keep evolving. You cannot stay where you are.
Yeah.
Your business cannot stay where it is. One of my clarisms I came up with about 4 years ago, even before the pandemic, was that every business model has a shelf life. Has yours expired and you just don't know it yet? Is your business past its use-by date? Which means it's still sitting in your fridge, but people are looking at it going, oh, I'm not sure I want to have that anymore. Oh, look at the date. And eventually it's going to get a stage where, I ain't touching that anymore. Right? Because it's past its use-by date. It's past its shelf life. It's past its use-by date. And that is a dangerous place. So if you're not continuing to evolve, your business is going to stagnate. It's going to go off. And it's going to become irrelevant and obscure, go into obscurity, and no one's going to want it. So you can't just sit there and hang there forever. Sooner or later, you're going to have to reach, or you're just going to fall.
That's wonderful, Dave. I was recently watching the British Grand Prix. And one of the things that I noticed, the guy that got out front, so to your point that you have to continue to evolve, I'm listening to him and I'm paying attention to what's happening. He's talking with his crew chief and his spotter. He's talking to those that have a perspective greater and beyond his own perspective. The conversation was how he could get better. And there was one particular straightaway, lap after lap, and he's in the lead.
Yeah.
And by the way, he's not in obscurity because he's in the lead.
Yeah.
All those back there, they were kind of drifting off into obscurity.
Yeah.
But there was one straightaway he was doing lap after lap, 184 miles per hour, 184, 184. Then it went to 187. Same straightaway.
Yeah.
Then he went to 191. Same straightaway. What's he doing different? He's getting better.
Yeah.
I watched him. He got all the way to 197 on that straightaway as he's pulling away. In other words, he's in the lead.
Yeah.
And his concentration is how do I evolve?
Yeah.
How do I get better? How do we get better? That was the concentration.
And
that's the ones that win. That's the ones that win, Dave.
Yeah. But and when you think about that in context, Gary, I mean, like that 13 extra miles per hour, and like that's a lot. Yeah. Like it may not sound like it when you're doing 184 to 197, but that's a lot to get that out of a straightaway. Like to constantly get your angle better into that corner every single time, just right. getting the run into, because if you understand racing, picking the racing line, right, the apex and get there, and then how you can keep it as straight as possible, because the straighter the car is, the faster it goes, right? So yeah, and so that just getting better at hitting that corner at the right time is where he's getting all that speed that he's slingshotting into that straightaway. And he's already in the lead, and he's just pushing and pushing.
That's right.
And you know what would happen, Gary? Guarantee the people behind him, their lap times would have improved too.
Yeah. So if he stays where he's at, and he doesn't get better, shelf life, baby.
Yep.
Somebody's coming by you.
Yeah. Yeah. The interesting thing, like, and this is another one of my Clarisms from a while ago. I did it came up when I was watching the 400 meters women's final in the Olympics many years ago now. Do you remember when there was one lady who dove across the finish line in the 400 meters women's final? And when you see the picture of it, it looks like she fell over, but she actually dove across the finish line, right? Because the lady who was at the front, ready winning, she's doing the typical run through and then the burst. And there's the other lady who just dove. Now, highly controversial, but not illegal.
Right.
Right? But the person in number one spot thought, I'm number one. The number two spot thought, I want to be number one. So how do you stay number one? Think and act like number two.
That's good.
Because number two always wants to be number one. Yeah. But when you get into that first place, so you're British race car driver guy and business owner leader. If your business, you've got the biggest market share. We're very successful, David Gary. We're number one in our this, and we have the largest market share, and we're dominating on the charts. And okay, great, that's awesome. What's number two doing right now? Wants to be number one, and you're sitting there resting on your laurels. This is why many sporting teams struggle to stay number one. They, win the season to do, this is why when you see somebody who has a dynasty of to win when the Bulls won 3 series in a row, 3 championships in a row, it's such a hard thing. When the Patriots won Super Bowl after Super Bowl, it's very hard to do because being number one, a lot of people can get to number one, but staying number one is the hardest thing. Because most people don't realize the simple fundamental thing that be number one, but think and act like number two, because number two always wants to be number one. So
that's good stuff.
Yes, there's a lot of stuff that we've covered here, Gary, beyond what we were hoping or what maybe thought we might cover, which is awesome, though. But getting back to this process, so if you want to get people on the same page, we're going to be running our workshop later in September. We'll put some dates in and share with people when the full workshop will be running again. We'd encourage you to come along in that. We just wanted to really dig deeper into some of these concepts behind the scenes in this, because when we did the workshop, it was great, but there's a lot of stuff we would love to have shared, but we're trying to make it as useful in terms of here's what and some hows to do and how to put some of the stuff into practical application. But we thought, hey, if we're going to do it again, let's spend a little bit more time up front and dig into some of these concepts a bit deeper and hopefully be able to help people to understand this. So when we run the full thing and you see it all in sequence and then you go, okay, cool, I have such a deep, rich understanding of it all now. It'll make even more sense in the workshop when we put it all together and give you the page to put everybody on.
Dave, I never get tired of you going through this. So if there are those of you who are watching this for the very first time, you're not going to get tired either. And you're going to have additional questions. Every time you see Circle Leadership pop up, jump on. You won't be sorry.
No, absolutely. And Gary, I'd like you to appreciate that might like I want you to give though your explain again just at the end, wrap us up with the human behavior part, even from your stuff now, like in terms of like your stuff, but the way you think and see it, because you see the same thing, but you articulate it in a different way, which is fantastic. So just that and the importance of getting everybody on the same page. So just wrap us up with that, and then what are we going to cover next week when we do this? We're going to jump into and then we'll do the other one afterwards, right? So we'll we'll talk about how to communicate a lot of this stuff, and then we'll talk about that in a different order than we did it in the workshop. So it'd be pretty interesting. So wrap us up with that, please, Gary.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. And thank you, Dave, for what you've given us today. I think we all know the importance of getting everyone on the same page. I like to sing. I'm pretty good at it.
You're very good at it, by the way.
Yeah, I like to sing. And so I've led some groups. I've led some choirs. Trust me, you want to.
Gary, let me just interrupt you there for a second. Because you're from down south. So let me tell you, folks, Gary White can sing. He doesn't just sing, he can sing.
Yeah, there's a difference. There is.
There's a big difference.
Yeah. But you want everybody on the same sheet of music.
Yeah.
Listen, there's nothing worse than a train wreck when it comes to singing and music. And you know what I'm talking about. Well, there's nothing worse in your organization than to have that train wreck simply because people are not on the same sheet of music. So that's what circle leadership, that's what this plan that Dave has just been inspired to bring about, to live out, and to share with all of us is how you can get your organization on the same page, singing the same sheet of music. Now, that being said, we also know that all things being equal, the plan that Dave laid out, flawless. And we know, hey, what about these different personalities? Because all of a sudden things don't seem equal to me. And I'm running into some strong personalities, or I'm running into some stoic personalities. And how do you motivate them? Yeah, I can talk about how do you motivate them? And so that's what we're going to talk about the next time that we come together. And it's very simple. It dovetails beautifully into what Dave has shared with us. And it's simply, I'll put it as simple as I can. It's understanding how you can press the positive energy button in people. A personality is a reflection of perspective and preference. And that second one is absolutely huge. Can't wait to share that with you.
Right. I'm so excited for that. So please join us again next week. It'll be at the opposite time. If I remember correctly, I think we're, let me just jump into the calendar while we're here, Gary. We're going to look at, yes, we're going to be going on at 7 a.m. my time, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. That is what time in your world?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. Will you be back on the East Coast?
Yes, I'll be in Orlando for the John Maxwell conference. And yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah, Disney.
Hey, John does this too.
Does he?
I'm watching you do this, and John will be on stage doing the same thing.
Awesome. Will you tell John I probably stole it from him? I don't remember, but John.
But he stole it from you.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything. We're cut from a similar cloth.
Well, now he has said most of his ideas have been thought of by someone else.
I'm at the end of my book, Simplified, I wrote in there you're standing on the shoulders of giants. If you look at the Bernard of Charteris, it's actually an actual piece written, and it was actually about where this concept of standing on the shoulders of giants came from, where the quote comes from. And Bernard of Chartres, or I think it is, and it's his whole story about that, and that's where the whole concept came from. Yeah. So, yeah, and you and I are just patchwork quilts of the most amazing. I would say I'm a patchwork quilt of some of the most amazing leaders that most people won't ever know who they are, except for the people who had the sheer joy of working with them. Yeah, because they're not famous leaders, but they were some of the best leaders that I've ever had the privilege to serve with.
Absolutely.
So, so we're looking forward to it. Gary's going to run through all that next week, 7 a.m. West Australian time, 9 a.m. Eastern States time, Australia, 7 p.m. on the East Coast, probably about 5 o'clock on the West Coast. Then is it or the other way around?
4 o'clock on the West Coast.
4 o'clock on the West Coast. So please join in. We're going to go through all these different people and how we get the altos, the tenors, the basses, and the sopranos all to sing together on that same sheet of music.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Was that a fair analogy? I wasn't sure, Gary.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Here I am trying to play with your, and I'll just bow to the master.
Well, you say that, Dave, and 4 basic parts that make the harmony. Okay.
Yeah.
That fulfill the harmony, and 4 basic personalities. If you listen to each one of them, they're singing different notes, but they're in harmony. And as a natural baritone, I can get into a little bit of the tenor range, but as a natural baritone, I think the baritone notes. And we think a certain way in our personalities. I can't wait to help you see that, and then how we can get in harmony.
Awesome. So tune in next week to us. We're looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll have full power throughout the whole presentation next time. Everybody, Naomi, thank you for your contribution. To anybody else who was watching, and if those of you watch afterwards, please, if you have any questions, just drop the comments into the live streams after you've seen it. Gary and I will jump on and answer all of them straight away. We really want this to be a value to you guys, and really to dig deep in this, because this is so much gold in here that people sometimes just walk right over top of. Right? They're walking on an inch of dirt, and underneath that inch of dirt, there's all this gold sitting there, and we're just trying to, so you guys can see and just grab some of the gold that's sitting right there at your feet.
Yeah.
All right. So
Right on.
Thanks very much, guys. Thanks, Gary.
See.